Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
23, Mike. Episode 23 of LTR. Should I stick with it? LTR. I'm telling you, it's going to catch
a mouthful.
What is this? 4 shows in a row I'm using the acronym?
I think so.
All right, I'm telling you, I'm going to stick with it. I like it. Just like you got your Mike Tyson shirt on. That sticks. So does LTR. Just watch. But, before we get into the fights that happened this past weekend from TJ, which we should have went, like we talked about last week, remember?
You said they were giving drink to the media?
That happens, I'm telling you.
I'm down for that.
I'm telling you. We should have just went. 2.5 hours maybe drive or something like that. But there'll be other opportunities we'll take advantage of. But we actually have a guest in the building, special guest in the building. How would you like to be described in terms of your role in boxing?
Just a strength and conditioning coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I like to ask, because some of them,
there's
performance
this debate
coaches.
that people, and you can put a label, but just strength and conditioning. I think most people will recognize that.
So Jerry Arias, who you're a performer, or actually, I got confused here because we had a strength and conditioning guy here,
Okay.
Andy Aguilar, who
Okay.
does Santa Cruz, Munguia.
Okay.
And I asked him the same thing.
Okay.
I was like, "Do you like to be called strength and conditioning?" And he's like, "Well, I like performance coach."
Okay.
So I was like, "Let me ask him before."
Got it.
I want to insult him.
Well, yeah, you don't want to get. I mean, you want to try to be ahead of the curve here. Tell people who some of the fighters that you train, because you train a lot. You train a lot of Thompson boxing promotions guys, right?
Yeah. So I got some younger guys in the stable. So someone like a Michael Dutchover. He's getting back in the ring pretty soon, but he had a good year last year, about 4 or 5 fights. And then we have another guy, Ruben Torres. Another guy,
I like Ruben. I've talked to him before. Yeah, he's cool.
He this year is it's going to be a big year for him because he's transitioning from that stage of not being in the ring for a few years because he went off to school, and this is a year where they're going to put him against some tough opponents. So it's going to be an exciting time for him. And I have another guy, Jonathan Diamante Esquivel. He's not signed with anyone right now, so he's on his own, but he just got done fighting about 2 weeks ago. He was one of Triple G's main sparring partners for 2 past camps, and he gave him amazing work. So they invited him back. So it's saying something with him. So
he could be busy again for a sparring session because Triple G's it's coming. Something's
he's
coming.
about to sign that deal.
I hope they paid him well.
Sparring
with
Is it
Triple G,
official?
that's some danger money.
It's not official
Not
yet,
yet, but pretty much. Right?
If he's holding out this long, I mean, he's got a good poker face.
Yeah.
But continue.
Someone like Erin Tohill. So she just she fought on the 360 card. When she did amazing.
We want to touch on that.
She should have won.
We want to touch on that.
I'll say it.
She definitely won the fight, in my opinion, trying to be unbiased. But yeah, so she's back. I just got her this past Saturday. She's looking for something to put together something. And then also with Peter Petrov. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He fought Flanagan about a year and a half now, maybe 2 years ago for
Is he Russian?
Manchester. Yeah, Russian and Spaniard.
last name. Yeah.
He
Petrov.
goes to some of the Thompson's boxing cards.
Yeah.
Oh,
So he's
that's
back
right.
in Spain right now. I think he just signed on with the fight out there. But hopefully after this fight, he gets one last big opportunity. But he's we want to talk conditioning. That guy is a machine. But there's one piece of equipment that I can put him on that he definitely doesn't like.
And what is that?
That's the Aerodyne bike. So it's the bike with
Aerodyne bike. That doesn't even sound fun.
So it's that bike where you got to pedal, but you also got to use your arms, push and pull.
That's hardcore, man.
And his condition is phenomenal. When you put him on that thing, he's dying out.
Yeah.
So
He hates you when you put him on that
he
thing.
does,
huh?
man. But yeah, that's kind of the stable of the fighters. I mean, I own a strength and conditioning facility. So one of the reasons why I wanted
Where's
to go
it
into so it's in the city of Whittier, California. So about 20 minutes south of downtown. And like one of the reasons was, I know we're touching on boxing, but it's that me as a strength coach, the way I get better is by honestly working with a wide variety of athletes, because you have to study different types of energy demands of the body. You have to study different movement patterns. And it just keeps me on my toes. And I was talking about this with somebody, and they're just like, how come you don't work with one sport? And it's just because honestly, it's you learn from having to do research, having to talk with coaches, and it just keeps you sharp. And that's one thing I think as a professional in this industry, it's important is you got to stay on top of. And we were just talking right before, but the science is changing, the research is changing, and it's new equipment. And it's crazy if you think what you've been doing for the past few years is just going to continue to work. It's not, because if you're not evolving as a coach or a practitioner, you're going to get left behind. So I think that's one thing that's extremely important to me is surrounding myself with, especially in the sport of boxing, where I'm a younger guy and I have a master's degree, but when I speak to older coaches who may not know the science, I'm getting so much wisdom and education from them because they've been in the sport for so long where they can see things that I can't even see. So, when my guys are sparring, I'm there right next to the coach. Coach, what are you saying? What kind of footwork? What can we do in the gym? So even though they might not have the degree per se, but they have that knowledge, and that stuff is so important. So important when you're trying to grow and basically help athletes achieve their peak performance.
How'd you get into boxing and being that type of coach? Yeah,
so boxing was pretty interesting. I mean, when I was younger, I did a little bit of boxing, but it was more just general fitness, wanted to lose some weight. So I got linked up with Danny Zamora. So he's been in boxing for quite some time, and
Dutch
Over and Petrov and all those guys. Yeah, and so when I opened up the gym, I tried to get him to give me some of his fighters, and he wasn't letting me because he's very particular with. One, he needs to trust you, right? And two, he needs to know that you're not gonna hurt them. And he comes from a little bit more of that old school kind of background. And it was one of those things where I knew right away I had to earn that trust. And part of being a coach, especially a strength and conditioning in boxing, where you can probably name a few strength and conditioning coaches in the industry who have had a bad rap, right? And I'm not naive to think that that's probably gonna stick around for quite some time. And us younger coaches are trying to, hey, we're not gonna just run your athletes into the ground. We're not just gonna bulk them up with bodybuilding type workouts where it's really based off of science and research and making the athlete recover better. So initially he wasn't giving me athletes until he gave me some of his young guys, and it was just trying to prove to him like, hey, I'm not just going to beat them up, and they're not going to gain weight and gain all this muscle. And then slowly he started giving me more of a stable, and then he started giving me some recommendations. So like Chimpa and some other fighters would come out. But I can tell you, it's one of those things. And as a strength coach, if you go to American football, basketball, they accept you pretty openly. But in boxing, it's you got to earn that trust of the team, and it's something you can't have an ego. It's not about you. It's one of those things where I know my role when I meet with the team. It's like, hey, what do you need from me? I work for you. I'm never going to try to dictate what we're going to do. It's what do you need as a coach, as an athlete? This is how I can help. And then we're going to constantly evolve and monitor and make some changes. And it's just understanding that I don't have an ego in this. This is what I do is a small piece of the puzzle. And if I do anything that's taken away from your sparring, your training, then I'm not doing my job. My goal is to make sure that the athlete is feeling good, recovering correctly, and basically peaking at the right time. And and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, about program design and stuff like that. But I think it's establishing that relationship where, hey, it's not about me. It's really about the team, and whatever I can do, I'm willing to do.
That was something I wanted to touch on. Like, how do you create like an 8 to 10 to 12 week camp?
Yeah.
Like, how would you structure that? Say if someone comes to you, like Michael Dutchover's got a fight coming up, like, how do you plan? Right, okay, week 1 to week 12.
Yeah. So I think it's working backwards. I always, all right, when's the fight date? Once we have the fight date, now I can kind of see where they're at currently. And I do a lot of assessments and testing. So I'm big with conditioning. I use heart rate monitor training. So first thing they're going to come in day 1, like Aaron came in on Saturday, and we didn't really go through a workout. I just wanted to take her through some assessments. So we did some rotational power stuff. We do a conditioning test where I'm looking at their heart rate recovery, and it's really trying to figure out, all right, this is the fight date. Week before that, that week of the fight is a weight cut, and then before that, we want to achieve that peak. Now, peak could be very subjective, where it's just like, hey, I feel really good. Or we are using some objective measurements like heart rate monitoring. How do you wake up in the morning? What's your resting heart rate? And that's going to change over those weeks. So then we're working backwards. But essentially, kind of in a nutshell, I usually always start with taking care of the big rocks. And the big rocks for me is make sure they're in shape. They have to be in shape in order for them to get into that sparring. Because if they're not in somewhat decent shape and they're going to sparring, technique's going to suffer. They might get hurt, and they're just going to, they're going to establish bad tendencies as far as their hands, footwork, and all that stuff. So the first thing when an athlete comes in, we'll do some testing, and then I'm going to get them a generalized program. So nothing specific. We're not going to be doing, bands around the hand where they're throwing punches. I'm going to get them maybe on a bike, doing a little bit of, some ladder work, some reactive stuff, really just getting them moving. Or if an athlete comes in, maybe they just got done with the fight and, they didn't get hurt and they might have a fight date pretty soon, then I'm going to kind of pick off where we left, where the intensity is pretty high. We're not doing tons of stuff, and it's basically leading them into how many days a week you're sparring. Usually they're sparring 3 days a week, which days of the week, who they're sparring. So even that matters. Like my guys are wearing heart rate monitors while they're sparring, and you can see when they're sparring a world champion, heart rate's going through the roof. When they're sparring someone that maybe is not as talented, their heart rate's not as high. So I know that when they're coming to me, if they're sparring a world champion, I know they're getting tons of conditioning. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do with our sessions maybe that week is do more explosive type training, more medicine ball, rotational stuff. Now, if they're not getting tons of conditioning, then our stuff is going to flip-flop. So I'm always trying to do what they're not getting with their training. They're doing road work. They're doing, abs, crunches, and all that stuff. And people don't realize that they're getting a lot of condition from their sparring. Like sparring is one of the best conditioning they're going to get. And it's very specific to the sport. So if I just do more conditioning, now we're getting into that overtraining. And that's not a good thing. So it's like, what are they doing? And then what can I add to complement? And usually they're not strength training. They're not doing a lot of back work, like upper back, and that's going to protect their shoulder, but it's also going to help them deliver a powerful punch. They're not doing, a lot of, rotational explosive stuff, maybe a little bit of bag work, but most of their stuff is going to be very aerobic, more cardio. They're not doing, throw that medicine ball as hard as you can, recover for 5 seconds, do it again, and then repeat. So essentially I work backwards, fight date, and then as the camp progresses, we're slowly increasing the intensity and we're decreasing the amount of stuff that we're doing. So we term volume. And essentially that's how it works. So we start backwards, and then from the get-go, let's get them in shape, relatively speaking. And then as we move through the camp, more intensity, less amount of work, because sparring becomes the most important thing. So I don't want them walking into a sparring gym super sore and things like that.
So if you had somebody who, like some young kid come into your gym, wants to say like, I want to start boxing, like what kind of workout would you put them through? Or would you recommend somebody could be listening to this who's thinking about like, I want to get into boxing. I want to try to do it. What would you like as an initial workout to try to? So
the best advice is don't do anything specific to boxing. Like you just got to be able to be an athlete. Like I don't think the whole term sport specific, right? That's one term that I don't necessarily believe in, because the only thing that's sport specific is the sport. So if a basketball player comes in, do you do basketball specific training? I'm like, no, go play your sport. That's specific. What we're going to do is basically get your hips stronger, core stronger. And it's the same thing with boxing.
Like body
athletes.
weight exercises and stuff?
Yeah. So body, like pull-ups, push-ups. But then I would, you got to get them in shape. I think boxing is one of those things where it doesn't matter how explosive you are. If your ability is not able to repeat that over a given amount of time, it doesn't really matter how hard you can throw for one time. So you got to have, whether it's road work, jumping rope, just 30 minutes a day of some form of cardio. And then as you get a little bit more in shape and you get kind of, if you're taking it more serious, now you're starting to add some higher intensity work. But if you're just going to go and think you're going to go sprint on the track, your hamstrings are going to blow out and then you're going to suffer a big time injury. So I would say just get in shape. Don't do nothing specific in the actual like gym, but do your boxing, throw some medicine balls, get strong. Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're strong, if you're younger, get stronger.
Is there a difference between English people and Hispanic people in training methods? Take that,
no
Mike.
comment on that one.
For your fighters, do you do the diet and also the supplements?
So it kind of depends. It depends on what they're looking for. For the most part, I'm going to give them some good recommendations as far as the diet goes. Because if most athletes, especially boxers, they want structure. They don't want to have to think. And I've taken some of my guys to the grocery store, and we literally will walk around and all right, this is what you're looking for on a food label. Try to avoid this and this and that.
Like street tacos. Avoid
street tacos, especially from Mexico.
In Mexico.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the team. I've had some athletes who are like, hey, we have our own thing. We do our own method. So I stay out of that. But at the same time, it's important to understand that your nutrition it goes hand in hand with your training. So if you're not, a lot of boxers they don't eat a lot of carbohydrates, not knowing that like carbohydrates is what supplies you energy. So at some point you're going to hit the wall your sparring's going to suffer, your energy's going to suffer, and then it's going to catch up to you. But if you do it right, and that's probably one of the biggest things is making sure athletes know that they can eat. Because again, they've probably been boxing since they were 10 years old, and wrestlers probably even worse. But it's like they're always dieting, and if they see the pound go up or the scale go up by a pound, they freak out, knowing that it's just probably you just had something to eat or it's water, and it's not a big deal. So I think part of that's education. But yeah, most of the time they're not eating enough protein. They're not eating enough food in general, not knowing that, hey, at some point you can cut back your food as you're kind of making weight. And then it's going to affect their recovery. So at some point they realize I have no energy. And then that's where we have to step in and make some changes. And then the supplements. Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of research in supplements, and in my opinion, I just think a lot of supplements they're just overblown. I think there's a lot of stuff out there, that it doesn't have the backing as far as research goes for what the label claims. Right? Some staples are going to be protein shake. I mean, it's super convenient. If a guy's training 2 or 3 times a day, they don't have time to have a meal, so they can have a shake. It's going to help. Maybe even some creatine, and some fish oils. And other than that, you're talking so much stuff that's just people are taking that just doesn't have really the efficacy. It just doesn't do what it says it does. Yeah, and the big thing with that is, some athletes have gotten drug tested, and so it's and I have I do a lot of education as far as what to look for with the supplement, and sometimes fighters are getting free supplements, not knowing what's in it. So if you're kind of taking a dice roll where if it doesn't have certain labels on the supplement, then it's not ensuring quality, purity, and things like that. So with my guys, I can only tell them, hey, this is what you should look for. At the end of the day, they're going to make their decision.
Do you try to keep up to date with the banned substances? Because I mean, it changes as time goes on, and sometimes they don't really put it out there. They just kind of add it to the list. Like VADA or somebody, and then somebody gets popped, and they're like, "Oh, it's not on the list." Oh, yeah, it is as of a couple months ago or something like it. Do you try to stay up to date on that stuff? Because I mean, I feel like that would be pretty difficult to stay up to date on that stuff all the time.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to again, there's only a few supplements that you really should be taking.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, you're good. But if you're, injecting something, if you're taking something that doesn't have a label on it, you probably shouldn't be doing that, right? So I think you got to know what's on the list and things like that. And there's some organizations that do a good job that you can scan the barcode and they'll run it through a database and it'll tell you all right, this is banned. Yeah. So there's a lot of resources out there, but most, athletes in general just kind of they trust the person that's recommending this, and then down the road they get in trouble. So I think it's taking ownership and knowing exactly what you're putting in your body, making sure you're getting it from credible sources, as opposed to someone selling you this product where they have a big biased opinion that they want to make money off of you, or they want to give you free supplements to promote, and you're still taking a shot. You're rolling the dice. So I think it's, again, supplements. There's only a few that are actually that effective, and if you're taking those are definitely not banned. Yeah.
Do you have to look at people differently, as in, when you're trading someone coming through like your Ruben Torres, who's someone's younger, or if you have an older fighter? Because I was listening to something recently where they were saying about Klitschko, obviously boxed until he was 41, I think, something like that. And he was saying that they stopped doing any kind of road work and he did all of his cardio actually in the pool.
Yeah.
So is that something that you look at for getting away from the road work? You did 20 odd years just running on the roads, not going to be good for your joints, I imagine. So
I think, I used to, when I first got into the industry, started working with boxers, I used to kind of downplay road work. I didn't really, I was just like, you can do something other than that, because how you said about the knees and the hips and the back. But then, you start talking to more fighters, more coaches, and I think there's a place for it. I think you have to, your legs specifically have to get used to, you have to do cardio on your feet, because essentially in the ring, you're on your feet for the entire, 12-round world title fight. So I think it's there in place. However, like how you said about taking an individual approach where I'm training Erin, she's in her 40s as well. It's like, I don't want her doing that much road work. She's doing her sparring, all that good stuff, but I'd rather put her on the bike, in the pool, on a rower, on a battle rope, that you can still get a lot of that cardiovascular system worked out and get the adaptations. But it's like a nice run. For most boxers, they just like doing it because it clears their mind. So there's a psychological component where they like going out there and just kind of getting away from everything. So that's fine too. But if you're running 8-10 miles a day, and that's just, you're overkilling yourself, right? But the pool stuff, I think that, I mean, I don't have access to that, but some of my guys, Jonathan goes to 24 and he'll do some laps. I think that's huge, especially as you get older, because now it becomes more about recovery rather than just being explosive and trying to maximize that 1% better of speed versus you're going to feel like crap during your training. So you're dead right about trying to, individualize it. Hey, what works for this athlete may not always work for other athletes. And that's a good approach to take as a performance or strength and conditioning coach. Yeah.
Do you use many of the unusual methods that you see Anatoly Lomachenko use? The hand-eye coordination where, he'll...
And that's insane, man.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
Like you were touching on before, you look at the different people and take different segments from everyone and put that into your own.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him doing the things with the coins, juggling the ball, fatiguing Lomachenko and then getting him to play like chess and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so what we have at our facility is called these Fit Lights. If you guys look at my Instagram, it's a reaction timing system. And what I'll do is I'll put them on the bike and we'll hit it hard for 30 seconds, get them really gassed out, and then I'll put them on these lights where they got to react. Either they got to throw a certain punch when a blue light turns on, or green light, red light, they change colors, and it's all about reaction time. And it's just teaching the brain how to function under fatigue. And I think that's one thing, like with conditioning, is one of the misconceptions is just go hard, right? As opposed to when it comes to conditioning, most athletes, if you're just telling someone, hey, go hard, go as hard as you can, the first thing that's going to happen is their technique's going to drop. And essentially, you're telling your brain, remember, your brain is basically the governor of everything that goes on in your body. You're telling your body to just go crap with technique and just go hard. That means in the ring, when you're tired, it's going to resort what it's been taught. And that means hands are probably going to drop, technique's going to drop, you're not going to be able to use your hips, your legs, and then you're going to get caught. So I think doing these types of techniques that they're doing is just teaching the brain how to function under fatigue. And I think that's important. It's extremely important as far as being able to hold good technique, being able to think, being able to problem solve. And again, how crazy do you get with it? It's kind of individual. I think he's been doing it for almost like all his life, right? His dad's been doing these types of techniques and stuff like that. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to just say, everyone should do it, but I think there's some merit to it where it's teaching the brain how to function under fatigue. And that's where, if you take any athlete, fatigue makes cowards of us all. It just breaks down your technique. And because if you're not constantly teaching the brain, hey, we're tired, but hands got to stay up. And that's why when I'm doing conditioning, it's not just go hard. It's, hey, keep your core nice and stiff. Make sure you're pushing and pulling. Make sure you're breathing. It's always cueing these athletes so they're basically practicing what they're going to experience in the ring. Yeah.
Have you ever, before Lomachenko, have you ever heard anybody being in ballet?
Never.
And then coming into boxing like that? Because that's insane. Like, and they're all about it. Like, yeah, I put him in this. And like his dad even says, I started him in ballet as a kid, and specifically to get his footwork and all that for boxing. And it's like, how do you have that mindset? Like, I mean, what do you think about something like that? I mean, obviously it's working.
Yeah, I think it's, with boxing specifically, I think these athletes they only play that sport their entire life. So if you're only doing one sport, it doesn't matter what sport it is, you're going to be very good at that given sport, but you're going to miss out on, athleticism. You're going to miss out on other variables that can complement what's going to happen in the ring. And again, it's hard to say a one size fits all, but I encourage any athlete to play multiple sports, because you're limiting your scale that you can improve on if you're only doing one thing. And then you're going to start getting injuries. You're going to start getting tight hips, tight shoulders. I mean, think of a boxer specifically. They're just so rounded over. But that's what makes them great. But again, at the same time, it's like some exercise, or you got to improve your posture a little bit. You got to, or down the road, you're going to experience some back pain and things like that. So I think there's some merit to trying some different methods, but it just depends on how you're teaching it and when you teach it. But I think as a young athlete, like, you should be experimenting with gymnastics and different types of sports, so you can build your athleticism. And then when you do get older, now it becomes much more specific, and you can bring along all these other skills and traits that you've accumulated through other sports, and it's only going to help you. I don't think it's going to hurt you.
Do you get involved in the when they're dropping the weight, like the saunas and stuff like that, the old school methods? Do you get them to move away from there?
Yeah,
because obviously they're taking a lot of water off the brain.
Yeah,
you see obviously people becoming ill. So you see them at the weigh-in, they look like a skeleton, and then they get into the ring, and some people obviously get seriously hurt. So
yeah, I think that's one thing. When I get a new fighter in, it's like, all right, what's your weight cut strategy? That's one of the things we talk about. And again, you're going to notice a lot of old school methods, just either not eating at all, cutting water way too soon. And it just becomes one of those things where you got to educate. And we do have more science and research when it comes to cutting weight. And even now it's even more important because certain bodies are actually going to start. I think the IBF has it right now, that 10% rule.
What do you think about that?
I think it's good. I mean, it's from a safety perspective, like how you said, is like you're playing with danger when you're dehydrating the body, especially the brain. You get, especially in a sport that's a contact sport. I think it's a good thing because it's probably going to prevent a lot of guys from missing weight and girls from missing weight because they're not going to be cutting dramatically.
Right.
But two, from a safety standpoint, it's just like it's crazy. I mean, MMA probably does even worse, or wrestling, but boxing too. I mean, my guys. One of my guys, he rehydrates and he jumps up about 20 pounds.
Damn.
And we can't do that anymore because they've literally have told like, hey, starting this, if you do that, if you miss it 2 times, if the day of the fight, they'll weigh you. Let's just say you're a middleweight, 160. The most you can weigh is 176. If you're above that 2 times, they're gonna bump you. Your next fight has to be at the next weight class. So you have to be very, very careful with the rehydration. But that just keeps people from getting super out of shape and blowing up.
Yeah, it's discipline.
That was why Lee Selby lost his title.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, huh?
Because he used to jump up like 22 pounds, and obviously now the IBF brought that rule in. He couldn't.
Yeah, that's why he moved up 2 weight classes.
That was the reason that behind him losing his IBF title to Josh Warrington.
Yeah,
he felt obviously dehydrated on the day. So
yeah, because I was like, when he moved up 2 weight classes, like 2 weight classes.
Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to weight cutting, I mean, there's a strategy. And I try to take like an individual approach with the types of foods. But I mean, the misconception is just you don't have to cut out water like the week before. There's a strategy where I usually water load my guys, and then the last 2 days they're the second to the last day they're cutting back. And they're only really not drinking fluids the day before the weigh-in, but before that they're actually water loading, so they're taking a lot of fluids, and essentially is trying to trick the body to thinking, hey, I'm oversaturated, and then by the time you start cutting out the water, fluid's coming out. And
do some people drink salt water? Is that right?
I mean, I'm sure they do, but I usually just tell my guys certain foods you're just going to cut out or you're going to replace with food. But yeah, you can have like electrolytes, like my post weigh-ins. The guys have they have a packet that has all the electrolytes. They have a drink. I get them on creatine. Creatine actually helps absorb a lot more water within the muscle. And then they take a little bit of glutamine as well and before their meal. But it's just making sure that, there's certain times of the camp where it's like, all right, you got to get to this weight and then this way and this way. And then if you can keep that schedule, like you're okay. But we've had some times where the body's just not responding very well and we got to make some changes. And yeah, it's very stressful on the fighter because that's all they're thinking about. And if it goes up, they're freaking out. And then makes it even worse to like one of our guys, when he stresses out, weight doesn't come off. So you got to teach these guys, hey, trust the process. This is the process. We're going to get to this weight. And then eventually they make it. But yeah, there's just times where I think it's when you're coming into a camp and you're out of shape, it's tough. And my guys, like I have a professor over at Cal Poly Pomona where we recently took all my guys to their lab and we tested their entire body fat. We tested their bone mineral density, and then we took them on what's called the VO2 max, is basically testing their capacity, their aerobic capacity. We're actually going to go back this Friday. So it gives us a baseline, especially the body fat. All right, where are you? And surprisingly, one of our coaches thought that his fighter was a lot more body fat than he had, and we tested him, and he was super surprised. And I was surprised too, how low in body fat. He was just holding on to so much water. So his weight was high, but his body fat wasn't that high. It was actually pretty lean, but the thing actually tells you how your hydration levels, and he was carrying a lot of water. So that's a good thing. That means we can cut a lot of fluids from him. Yeah. If you have a lot of body fat, that takes a lot of time to get rid of.
That must be my problem. I must hold a lot of water.
You keep telling yourself that. You keep telling yourself that. So out of all these guys you train, so Dutch Over, Torres, Aaron Toughhill, El Diamante, like, out of all of them, when you're training them, which one are the most animated? Because some people when they're working out, they when they're really feeling it, they're like, oh, they just scream and they let it out. Or which one's the most animated out of all these guys?
To be honest, I think it was Petrov, Peter Petrov. Really? Yeah, when we train that guy, he has this. Again, he's a Russian, and he he likes to go. He doesn't like rest periods. I don't care. He doesn't care what his heart rate is. It's like, just push me. But at the same time, it's as a coach, these guys want to push and girls want to push. And as a coach, it's your job to step in and know when it's time to pull back. So I think with him, for sure, he's the most animated. We put on some hardcore rock and he just goes. But at the same time, he's paying me to deliver the best results, and I gotta know when to pull back. So sometimes I can't tell the athlete directly, like, hey, today's gonna be an easier day, because right away, if you tell someone, especially a boxer, they're zoning out and they think they're a wuss or they're not gonna be prepared. So I just modify it without them even knowing it. So we might, instead of going 30 seconds hard, we might just make it 15 and then do a little bit of core work. They have no idea that I'm modifying it, but you can just tell when one of the boxers comes in, I watch their body language. Are they speaking to me when they're foam rolling? That's an indicator. If they're super quiet, I know they're probably tired, they're hurting. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to modify a little bit, but I can't tell them because it's more of a mental game where they just think they're not going to be prepared. So I'll just modify things, and using the heart rate monitor, so all of my guys wear it, and then on our TV, it shows in real time. So it's an easy way to be like, all right, when you hit to the red zone, you're going to hang out there, which is like 90% of your max heart rate. You're going to hang out there for 30 seconds. You got to come off until it turns blue because it changes color. So now it takes me out of it from, being the bad guy, where it's just like, no, bring your heart rate down.
You blame it.
So it becomes more
that's pretty smart.
It's more gamified, where it's like, and honestly, from a conditioning standpoint, that's one of the, if we want to talk about, but the your ability to recover from your heart rate being super high. And that's one thing I think from a conditioning standpoint. I think, like, whoever's listening to this, conditioning, usually people think of how hard you can go, right? It's actually your ability to recover from that hard bout. So in boxing, it's that 1 minute between rounds. If you're coming off of your stool and you're slightly a little bit more recovered than the guy in front of you or the girl in front of you, there's a good chance you're probably not using as much fuel. You're probably not going to be as fatiguing during the later rounds. So breathing, being conscious of, and that's why that TV's up there, is as soon as we get done, I'm like, bring your heart rate to 130. And then I time them. And I have a lot of objective data where we chart it. And over time, they're getting better at that. And then when we go to sparring, they're wearing their heart rate monitor. I have it on their phone and I'm checking it. They do 30 seconds as far as the rest pairs. But same thing. How fast can you recover is more important than how hard you can go as far as how high you can get your heart rate. It doesn't really matter how high you can get it, because if you just go all out brawling, it's going to shoot through the roof. But you're not going to be able to recover from that if you've never done that during training. So that's one of the biggest things when it comes to conditioning. It's not so much how hard you're going, is your ability to recover. And that's where, road work and doing more aerobic type stuff is going to be beneficial. And I think that's where past few years, whether it's like CrossFit or other stuff, where they just encouraged so much high intensity stuff and they got away from the low intensity aerobic stuff, not knowing that that's your recovery. If you're only doing high intensity stuff, you can get some of those adaptations, but the aerobic system is what's recovering you within that 1 minute. So you can be explosive, that's great, but if you have a crappy aerobic system, you're never going to be able to recover as efficiently, and then it's going to hurt you when you're in those bigger 10, 12 round fights, and you're going to be gassing out.
So you mentioned earlier when you touched on Petrov, that you put on some hardcore rock and he kind of gets in the zone and stuff like that. Is there other fighters who like request certain types of music? Like, you know what, man, put this on because this will get me in the zone, or they're just there like, let's just get to work. No,
it's weird, but like they're most of them. We have fun and stuff, but a lot of them just come in with a good work attitude.
Yeah, they're ready to go. Yeah,
they come in, and I'll try to play with them a little bit, and some of them are just like, hey, coach, I'm ready.
Yeah,
and you can just tell sometimes I'm training the guys still out of camp. It's probably a little bit more relaxed, but in camp they put on this lens of just, hey, I'm here to work. Well, we'll have fun afterwards, but usually, I'll just put on some hip hop and they get after it. And sometimes they don't even want music because they want to hear the coaching. They want to hear how they're recovering. They want to hear instruction. So sometimes it actually does a disservice if I crank it out too loud. But I think Peter's the only one that like requires a certain specific music to crank up. The other guys, they're just there for
they're there cool. to get the work
just
done,
besides country, they're good.
What did you think of Tyson Fury's like dramatic weight loss and then still being? Because I think a lot of people were kind of thinking, when people lose weight, he's going to get in. Is he still going to have his strength? Yeah. Is he still going to
the lateral movement?
Is he going to have like
that?
Well, just everything? Because most people, when they lose that much weight that quickly, normally it takes a little bit from them.
Yeah.
You'll know better than me.
Yeah. And it's crazy because when Peter fought Flanagan for the world title, we went out to Manchester, and I met Fury when he was at his heaviest. This is like he's pushing 400. I didn't even recognize him. The coach had to be like, "Dude, you know who that is?" I'm like, "No, that's Tyson Fury, the guy that beat Klitschko." Just massive human being, right? Yeah. But when I talked about this not too long ago, but it's he did it over a good amount of time, right? I think it was like a year and a half or so where he lost this weight. So it wasn't like he crashed dieted and he lost it in 6 months. Because I think from that perspective, you're gonna feel it. Your muscles you're probably gonna lose a ton of muscle if you do it too quickly. So I think he did the smart thing, not knowing kind of what they did as far as the camp goes. But I think he took enough time to lose the body fat. And I mean, he looks good. Like he doesn't look like he's super fatigued. He doesn't look, he's bouncing around during the fight. So, and I think to me, it's like, that's one of the better indicators where you can do all this testing, but you'll know when a fighter is not feeling it. When their body language is telling you, like, I just don't want to be in the gym. From all the stuff that I watched with him, he just seemed like, and I think there's a big mental side for what he had to overcome personally, where he's just like, there's nothing worse that can be done to me than what he went through. So he has that mindset of bring it. Like there's nothing worse than what I went through. And it's almost like he has a rejuvenation where that makes an impact too, where like mentally he's a new person, and physically he probably has more confidence, and it shows. So I think if you do it too quickly, it's going to have some dramatic effects on your fatigue. A lot of your hormones are going to get involved, but I think he had enough time where he lost the weight, and it's proven that he doesn't look like he put tons of it back on so far. He's back in the gym and he's working out.
He looks even better. He did like a photo shoot for GQ.
Oh, did you see that
and
picture?
You can see his jawline.
I saw a picture somebody posted where they did like a before and after at his heaviest, and then that GQ or whatever.
Amazing.
It's pretty. You got that slim fit suit on. I was like, dang.
You were just touched on it there, and obviously with Tyson Fury about the mental side.
Yeah.
Is that something, as a strength and conditioning coach, you kind of, you're there one-on-one with the fighters, and, you're kind of like a mentor to them as well. You get them through those low times, when they lose. You help them, like through the weight loss or, gaining. Yeah. So is that something you kind of work on as well? And, trying to like bring them up, when they're down? I
think that's huge. And the way I do it is more building confidence. And confidence to me is getting objective data. So it's like, all right, week one, this was your heart rate, recovery, your performance. We do a testing and showing them that you're getting better, right? And the boxing coach is usually going to be the bad guy where they always want them improving. It's always like, no, you had a crappy sparring day, where I'm like, oh, they look good, but no, they're the bad guy. So I try to play that good cop role where I'm trying to reinforce, hey, you're getting better, you're breathing better, and it's not like I'm blowing smoke. I'm trying to be honest, and when they mess up, I'll call them out. But I think it's building confidence. It's one of those things throughout camp. You're going to see guys that they lose some confidence. They might have a crappy sparring day, and then they just think they're going backwards, when it's like, no, you just had one bad day. So it's when they come to my facility, I'm always trying to get them in a position where they're going to see improvements, and they're going to walk out of the gym like, damn, I felt better, right? My heart rate looks better, my numbers are better, and they get into it. When you give them some technology, some numbers. Some of my guys are taking pictures, and they're like, hey, like I was here last time, now I'm here this time. So they get into it. I think the biggest part is that confidence, and the way you build confidence is by seeing success. So if they're having success, it's only getting better. It's only getting better. So, but I think other people around and having a good team where, people are communicating and being honest with each other. Like, how do they look? He didn't look too good today, but tomorrow's a new day and let's bounce back. So that's the big thing, I think, from a mental side of it is making sure they're not losing their confidence. Once they lose their confidence, it doesn't matter what they're doing physiologically. It's confidence is the key driver where they're going to want to push and stick to the program versus deviating and doing something completely different, and then now it's working against them.
Just giving them like small or obtainable targets, really.
Yeah.
Week by week instead of, because week one they've got that 12-week target. Yeah. I'm sure that's a long way off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Who your fighters? Who has fight dates coming up?
So coming up, we got Mike Dutchover should be in the ring early next month. And then Peter, he's going to stay in Spain, but I think he's fine next month. But after that fight, hopefully he gets something bigger. And then Jonathan should be in the ring. Jonathan and Ruben just fought about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's right.
But they'll be back in. Thompson does a good job with keeping them active. And then Erin should be. She's waiting on a phone call, and hopefully get her some big fights, because she had a good performance her last fight.
And then before, I want to touch on Erin, like I said at the beginning of the show. But like we just said it earlier, a lot of your fighters are from Thompson Boxing Promotions. For our fans internationally, especially in the UK and Mexico, Canada, or Jeff Horn's territory, Australia. The Hornet, it always comes back, man. I'm telling you. Thompson Boxing Promotions is essentially like a regional promotional company out here in Southern California. Most of their shows are out here in Southern California. Probably their most recognized name at the moment is probably Danny Roman.
Yeah, people will know from England from Danny Roman. They have a link with DAZN now.
So he started. Well, he's still co-promoted by Thompson Boxing. He started with them, and now he's the world champion at 122. Right.
He's actually fighting April at the Forum.
He's unifying, right?
Yeah,
unification fight. So, so Thompson Boxing Promotions out here puts on a lot of cards here in Ontario, California. They do some in Corona.
Yeah.
So they're usually all around Southern California. So for people, there's other promotional companies out there. It's not just Golden Boy, Top Rank. There's other ones that put out some good players. So who are you training at the moment right now?
So right now we have Jonathan's getting back in the gym. Aaron Tohill, and I mean the guys, even the guys that just fought. I mean, as long as they don't get injured, they're back. I mean, literally, sometimes if they fight on that Saturday, they're back in on Monday. And it's just a matter of making sure they're not falling off. And part of kind of the mental game too is just the discipline. So, it's easy for these guys to take a few weeks off, come off the diet, and then you're working backwards. They're gaining 10, 15 pounds, and now they're back in the gym. They're not, and again, that becomes a confidence where they're walking back in the gym. They're feeling sluggish. They're not doing good, and it's kind of like a spiral. So it's one of those things where I try to encourage, and one of those things of always being in shape. I think if you look at some of the past kind of best athletes in the world, they take their job extremely serious where they never let themselves get out of shape. They're always eating healthy. They're constantly in the gym. It doesn't mean you have to be sparring all year round, but you're constantly in shape. You're monitoring your weight. You're not going and moving up a few weight classes up. So they're back in the gym. Almost everyone that I'm working with, they're literally back in 2 or 3 days a week with me. And then once sparring rolls around, that's when we stick to 3 days a week.
So, jumping into this past week, because obviously there's always boxing happening, especially with all these networks jumping into the fold now. I'll start with the UK card because Mike is obviously a big English fan. He's all about the UK fighters.
Start with the motherland.
The motherland. So we had Chris Eubank defeats James DeGale this past Saturday at where'd they fight at? The O2? Yeah, the O2 Arena. Oh, James DeGale's nickname is Chunky. Remember, we were
Chunky.
We were talking about it last week, and we're like, I don't think he has one. It's Chunky, which I thought never fit. But, didn't you pick DeGale? I picked Eubank. And look at what happened.
I'll give it to you. I didn't see it.
I watched the highlights of it, and DeGale just he was trying to get him, wrap him up, and after a while, did you see that takedown that Eubank did? He kind of picks him up, and then just drops him. That could have been really bad.
WWE move.
Yeah, that could have been really bad. But I mean,
I think that was the first fight I'd ever watched where no one threw a jab.
Yeah, I noticed that. Somebody pointed that out. I was like, there's really no jabs here. They're just kind of going at it.
I'll give it to Chris Eubank Jr. though. I thought it was. I think everyone expected him to come in, even though he had a new trainer in Nate Vasquez from the Mayweather gym.
Right.
He did change his style. I thought Eubank was going to go in there and, really he's just more of a street fighter. I quite like the way that he kind of used DeGale's style against DeGale because he was making DeGale, who's normally a southpaw, counterpuncher, actually, push the fight. And because he was the younger, faster, stronger guy, every time DeGale would try to come in because he wasn't trying to open things up with a jab.
Yeah.
He was just coming straight in and Eubank was just bang, hitting him because he was so much quicker.
Yeah.
And I don't think DeGale really knew what to do because he was kind of no one expected Eubank to really, come back and be the counterpuncher in that type of fight.
Right.
So I thought it was definitely good. You could see early on that Vasquez had told him. And
he improved.
Yeah, and it was good because I kept thinking, Eubank's going to get on top, it's going to go to his head, and he's going to revert back to the old Eubank style. But even a couple of times when he rocked him, he didn't rush in like he used to before and just start throwing and get caught. He kind of waited and thought, what, I've got this in the bag. There's no need to go crazy. So
his dad was happy.
Yeah, his dad's crazy. So there with his sheriff's badge on and stuff like that. But I think it's over for DeGale.
I think it was over. I think it was over after he lost to Badu Jack. or the draw with
I think
Wilder.
that
took a lot out of him.
I was listening to all the podcasts, watching the hype, and again, I got drawn in, and I was like, I kept, even though I was at the Caleb Trulux fight, the second one where he won back the title. Even that night, I was kind of like, he won this fight, but it was pretty close against Truax, who he shouldn't have lost the title to. He actually picked Truax to be like a tick-over fight, ended up losing the title to him, and then won it back.
He underestimated it.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was for the IBO world title, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the big ones.
One of the big ones. Well, I mean, to the Eubanks, it's a pretty important title. I mean,
two-time IBO
he's a two-time
world champion.
IBO champion, but your boy Eddie Hearn doesn't think that IBO is important.
No.
But he gets the 12-round decision, and then like we said, DeGale just didn't have it anymore. He was a shell of his old self, and I think he's retiring, right? I think
he said beforehand that if he lost to somebody like Eubank, that would be hits. But
that's kind of an insult, isn't it? Like, if I lose to somebody like this guy, I'm out.
I mean, he's been a world champion. He's lost to Eubank, who really isn't world level. He just obviously got lucky.
His dad,
having that name has managed to get him some big fights and some big paydays. So to me, I think DeGale probably needs to just wrap it up, unless he wants to step down to domestic level.
Maybe. Who knows? But looks like I beat you again, Eubank. I picked Eubank. Hey man, I'm beating you in your UK, and you should know the UK scene a lot better than I do. So
too emotional, I'll go with my heart.
He goes with his heart instead of his mind. And then also on that card, Joe Joyce improves to 8-0 with the 6th round stoppage of Bermain Stavern, which was
came in at like 290 pounds.
Yeah, how do you describe that? I mean,
Joe Joyce has maybe the slowest punches I have ever seen, which actually managed to land.
And he's trained by Abel, right?
Abel
Sanchez, yeah.
There's something it's like he throws them, and people see it coming, and then they still get hit by it.
Yeah,
I was like, what on earth? How are these landing? And he literally has no lateral movement.
Yeah,
I saw a tweet. I think it was Steve Kim, who writes for ESPN. I think he said something along the lines of, if they show a replay in between rounds, is it going to bleed over into the next round as it starts? Because there's, and I was dying. I was like, that was a good one. That was a good one. So I mean,
he got the finish. I think it should have been stopped a little bit earlier. I think even Stavern thanked the referee when he actually jumped in and stopped it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Stavern knew going in. Stavern, when he was in his prime, was dangerous.
Yeah, but it seems like
But now, of course,
once he got to the top and won the world title, it was kind of like he just thought, nah, I've done it now. I made some money and started piling on the weight.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, he's just kind of looked like a shadow of his former self. But
when he was in his prime, though, he was pretty dangerous.
He was pretty good, for a short period of time. But I think Joe Joyce, after that performance, he's 8 wins, all by KO. I don't think he's ever going to be in a boring fight, but I also don't think he's anywhere near Wilder, Joshua.
No.
Tyson Fury would absolutely school him.
Of course.
He doesn't move.
Yeah. To you, he would always, of course he goes to Tyson Fury.
Well, they're both English, but I was just like, oh my God. Any of the top guys, Luis Ortiz would kill him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Luis Ortiz.
I'm telling you, people better not sleep on Luis Ortiz. Ortiz is dangerous.
He's a monster.
I think even Prince Charles Martin would beat him.
He's fighting. What is he fighting? He's fighting soon.
He's fighting soon. I can't remember who, but he's
Prince Charles Martin. And this was for your new favorite belt, the WBA Gold Heavyweight title, right?
Which is replaced the interim or something.
I guess, I don't know. So now we have gold champions. So it sounds like something from Austin Powers. So I got the gold champion. So whatever, it is what it is. And then friend of the show, Lee Selby. Like we talked about, moved up 2 weight classes and got the unanimous decision win over Omar Douglas.
He made hard work of it.
That was a tough fight.
It was a tough fight.
He was bleeding too, wasn't he?
Cut over both eyes, both from headbutts. Lee Selby even said afterwards that he kind of made hard work of it instead of using his boxing skills. He kind of looks like he lacks a little bit of power moving up 2 weights. But to be fair, Omar Douglas had never been stopped.
Right.
His 2 defeats had both come by decisions.
Right.
So, he was a tough character. Lee Selby could have made it a little bit easier. I think he got drawn into a little bit of a war, which was what Douglas wanted.
Yeah.
Because, he was a buff guy. He could see that's the type of fight that he wanted to do. I think Lee Selby, though, he noticed that at the end, and going forward, he just needs to use his skills. He's good on his feet. He moves well, got really good movement. Just use his jab. Just pop, pop, pop from the outside, move around. He doesn't need to get drawn into it. That's his problem. He likes to fight, maybe even he moved up 2 weight divisions, so maybe even moving down 1 if he can make weight. Because in the division that he's in, moving up to lightweight, you've got some absolute beasts. You've got like Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, if he comes back down. He's
even guys like Robert Easter and those guys, like they're still dangerous.
Yeah, and that's their natural weight division. I think Lee, especially facing someone like Omar Douglas, he couldn't get him out of there. So facing those bigger guys, I don't see him going too well for him. Maybe moving back down 1 weight category.
Lee Selby was out here training. He comes out here a lot to train. He was out here training in L.A. What gym was he at?
He was at Maywood, training with Charles Huerta.
What? Really? So Mike went out there when he was training out there and just talked to him, interviewed him for a little bit and stuff, and then he put on the body protector because Mike wanted that work. Yeah, Mike wanted that work, and there's video on our social channels on Instagram and Twitter. Selby just rears in and just.
He whacked me once, and then I kind of like giggle, probably like a nervous laugh. So he's like, boom, whacks me again, boom, whacks me again. And I'm thinking, dude, I'm not laughing because
he tapped out after 2 shots. 2 shots. He's like, oh, forget it.
I'm gonna watch that video.
Yeah, man, he got you hard.
And
how much? It was nice and high as well.
How much do you weigh, Mike?
On a good day, about 220.
So 220 and 135-pound lightweight just killed you with a body protector. But you could tell like. It's in the technique.
Yeah,
I mean, as a boxer, 100%. They know, and you can see him if you actually watch the video of it.
I knew he had a fight coming up, Jerry, so I didn't want to hit him back. Get
out of here!
I didn't want that card cancelled.
I didn't want to hit him back. That's the excuse you're going to keep telling yourself. That's the excuse.
How tall is he? Or short is he?
Selby's probably like 5'6".
Oh, wow. Probably. Okay. Short
he's
guy. And you're what, 6'4"?
6'3".
6'3", 6'4". So, that just shows you, man. Like, it doesn't matter. Like the technique and the torque. They know. They know.
You can hear it. If you watch it, it's on our Instagram and it's on our Twitter feed. So
check that out.
You can hear it.
Yeah. And then moving on. Also, this was on Saturday, right? Or was it Friday? From the Minneapolis Armory in Minnesota on Fox Sports 1, Anthony Durrell gets a technical decision over Avni Yildirim for the vacant WBC super middleweight title. Durrell had a cut above his eye in the 7th round due to a head clash, and the fight was stopped on advice of the ringside doctor when the injury obviously got worse. Did you catch this fight?
I caught it. I thought Durrell played on it. I thought Durrell.
You know what? I was reading about that. I didn't get a chance to actually watch any highlights or anything, but I was reading about it. Mm-hmm. And I was reading that people were saying that Durrell kind of took advantage of that.
Yeah, Durrell, he got the head clash, and I think he knew where it was placed, that it was going to get worse, because you knew that probably Yildirim was going to aim for that.
Yeah.
So you could see that Durrell came out, and then he was kind of thinking to himself, I'm gonna work my ass off for these next few rounds.
Yeah.
And then when the doctor comes over in the 10th, he's probably like, yeah, I can't see Doc. Let's call it off. So he came out, made sure he won the 8th. Made sure he won the 9th, and then
it was strategic, man.
Yeah, it was definitely strategic. I thought, but it was a close fight, and actually, Yildirim actually thought he won it. I thought he did well because he's very, very one-dimensional. You may remember him for the World Boxing Super Series where he fought Chris Eubank, and Eubank finished him with a nice body shot. He came in, he looked better than I expected. I thought Durrell got dragged into the Yildirim's kind of war that he wanted to do. I think they'll do it again. I think the WBC will mandate it, I'm sure. Yildirim, he thought he won, and his corner are very animated.
Yeah.
I think they'll call for a
They'll try to push for it.
They'll try and push for it. And I don't see why they wouldn't get it. I thought it was a decent fight.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, you got to think about it. Sometimes you got to look at terms of the names. That's the business.
Yeah,
what
definitely.
Happens. Yeah. And then also, DAZN, first card in Mexico. Not MMA card, because there was MMA fans who got mad, and it's like, this isn't DAZN's first card in Mexico. They had Bellator over there. They had MMA. This is the first boxing card for DAZN.
My fight of the weekend.
My fight of the weekend.
I honestly thought it was the best fight.
It was fight. I agree with that. So, 38-year-old veteran of the game, 20 years in the game, in his 80th fight, Humberto Soto beats Brandon Rios by scores of 119, 111, 118, 112 twice. I thought we both picked Rios last week. We just thought, he's younger, he's been in a little bit more high profile fights, but man, Soto came to win. His technique was great. Like, people were making fun of his haircut, But I was like, forget that, man. This guy looks good. He was the uppercuts he was landing on Rios were ridiculously like they were well placed. I was impressed. And we both picked Rios. We're 0 for 1 now.
I think I should stop picking, Danny.
I think we should just stop picking. We're just getting
I think I should stop picking. I'd just pick the opposite. Everyone who's listening, whatever I pick, just go the other way.
I mean, like you said, it was an exciting fight. It was entertaining.
It was my fight of the weekend. I picked Rios. Rios came in and did what Rios did, just literally came forward, just throwing punches. Soto really just stayed in the pocket, but it was just his movement.
Right.
He'd make Rios commit, and then he'd just go to the body, come around the side, go to the top, throwing uppercuts through the middle. I thought Robert Garcia was good in the corner. He said to Rios, I think around 6, round 7, he's like, I've got you 4 rounds down. He was honest with him, which I kind of liked. I honestly didn't see it coming, but it definitely was just the experience. I liked the way that Soto would get to the last 10, 15 seconds of the round and just start throwing combinations, just throw as many as he could, just to get in there, just to make sure to the judges, like, hey, this is my round. I ended really well.
Right.
That's just experience. Yeah. I thought, which Rios really is so one-dimensionally, didn't really know what to do. And it was just boxing IQ.
Yeah.
To put it was the boxing IQ which won him the fight.
It was the IQ that won him the fight, the intelligence.
It really was. And I liked the way he got a decision. Rios being the bigger name, Soto's on his way out.
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, because I told you last week, if this goes a decision in TJ in Mexico, I mean, it's different from American commissions. It's different. And I thought it's going to go to Rios. I mean, but no, they went to Soto. So
it was good.
But I agreed with it, though. I thought Soto outboxed him. So, and also on that card, friend of the show, past guest, Anissa Estrada, gets a 5th round TKO stoppage over Jennifer Leon. And this isn't Jennifer. She spells it with a Y. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that Spanish. I have family growing up, that they don't speak English. They're the Spanish speakers, and their name is Jennifer, or people were named Jennifer, but they call them Jennifer with a Y. It's like, there's no Y there. But this is actually her name. It's spelled with a Y. So it's not a mistake, people. Because there's probably Hispanic, Hispanic fans out there yelling, like, oh, he said Jennifer. It's like Jennifer. But it's spelled with a Y. So we didn't make a mistake. So congratulations to Sanisa on her win. I think this was her 5th fight with Golden Boy, something like that.
Yeah, it must be around 5 fights, and another stoppage.
She's doing her thing.
Yeah, she's good to see because it's one of the things that we've touched on a few times in this show is a lot of the women's fights go the distance.
Yeah,
her last couple of fights, she's managed to finish them. So
that's good. It's good for the female side of the sport. So that's cool. And then moving on, real quick here, fight previews this Saturday, March 2nd, from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn on Showtime. Erislandy Lara comes back at 154 pounds over Brian Castellano, right? Or Castano. I think there's a thing around above the N for the pronunciation, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know. For the WBA Super Welterweight title, does Lara still have it after losing to Hurd? What do you think?
I think he should do. He's his style. He doesn't really take much punishment. He's not a Brandon Rios style fighter.
He's got that Cuban style.
Yeah, he's a cute Cuban style. So he's one of those guys like Luis Ortiz. You don't know, being from Cuba, you don't know how old he is. He could be in his 50s by now.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
those Cuban guys, man.
It's a good matchup. We're going to see whether Lara has anything left or whether Castellano is actually the prospect that we all think he is. I think Castellano will probably take it. Mm-hmm. Being the home fighter, Lara always has close fights, close rounds, and I think the judges will side with the home fighter. I think Castellano will win it, probably unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm going Lara. I'm going opposite from you. I'm going Lara. So let's see who wins next week again. And then real quickly, Luis Ortiz returns on that card. The Real King Kong versus Christian Hammer. I think Ortiz, especially if he wins this fight, he has to get a big name next. He has to. I mean, I just don't understand if
so many options for him with the heavy division kind of.
But he's just dangerous. People are afraid of him.
Yeah, that's it. People don't want to fight him.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I think if he wins, like he's due. He's due. And then real quickly, I want to touch on the fight of the day today, or the fight of the week probably. And it wasn't even in a boxing ring. It was between Eddie Hearn and Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports. They were going back and forth on Twitter about the Wilder Joshua negotiations.
Contracts.
Spinoza posted a snippet of the contract saying, we sent this to you, and Hearn's like, you didn't send nothing. Like, hey, if you guys haven't seen it, go on Twitter. On each of their Twitter handles, they were going at it for like a good 2-3 hours.
It's good because, Espinosa said something back to Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn just put, the referee stopped this 30 minutes ago. The fight's over.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh.
Yeah, man. If you want to be entertained, go read through those timelines. It was pretty entertaining. They were going back and forth. So I was entertained by that throughout the day. So, but before we wrap up here, Jerry, we'd like to thank you for coming by. Go ahead and plug social media accounts, your gym, your fighters, everything you want. Go ahead.
Yeah, just before I do that though, just thank you guys for having me here, man. You guys are, again, with the podcast, and I know you guys are probably exploding and growing, so it's an honor to be here and kind of meet you guys. But as far as you can follow me, probably the best thing is probably Instagram, just Coach_Jerry with a J _ at the end, Titan_Edge_athletics. And then I also have my own kind of podcast. The whole podcast is all about conditioning, is how to improve your conditioning.
What is it called?
Any sport. So right now it's a Tighten Up podcast. Right now we're on YouTube, and we're pretty much going to launch it on all the platforms right now. So
there you go.
Yeah, and it's just trying to bust a lot of myths with conditioning. It's me and a professor from Cal State Fullerton, where we're very research based. So we're just trying to put out knowledge that hopefully athletes are not making these mistakes. Coaches are learning as well. So it's really just about improving the whole industry as a whole, and no egos or anything like that. And we love kind of taking on questions and just helping people. At the end of the day, I'm a coach at heart. And if people have questions, I just want to help. So just follow me on Instagram, probably best way on Facebook, and just kind of, you can look me up. But Instagram is where I'm posting most of my stuff. Yeah.
You train other athletes, college athletes and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do college, high school, a little bit of everything. Just kind of how I said earlier, it just keeps me on my toes. It's really like literally every single day I'm looking at new type of research from different athletes. So that's always a good thing, just to kind of keep things fresh. Yeah.
And your gym's in Whittier, right?
City of Whittier, yeah.
So that's it's LA County, for our international listeners. It's just like technically a suburb of Los Angeles, just outside Los Angeles, but it's essentially, Los Angeles is so big. So it's right there. But like you said, we appreciate you coming on. Like you said earlier, follow him on Instagram at Coach_Jerry, right?
Yeah, and the underscore at the end. Yeah,
and the underscore at the end. Don't forget the end. There's 2 underscores.
The other one was taken.
That happens all the time. So, anything you want to add, Mike, before we wrap up?
If anyone's looking for him, we'll be posting pictures of Jerry and snippets from today. So you can find him on our Instagram and also our Twitter as well if anyone struggles to find him.
At the last round 12. So keep up with us right there. But once again, I'm Danny Z. Jerry, thanks again for stopping by. For Michael Shepard, this is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round.